or I think you're going to invite.
Well, right, we can do it. Te aroha, te whakamono, me te rangi mari e tātou tātou e.
I thought it wasn't too big.
Would you like to stay?
Sure. Wow, okay, stay.
Before you speak, we have a tradition in Changing Minds to give our new board members a plant to plant in the Changing Minds garden and a plant to take home. So you've got some seeds to plant in our garden and some flax to weave what you bring and Changing Minds as mahi together.
Thank you.
And Johnny, you have different seeds and a different
I
flax to
love it.
weave.
Welcome to the family. Over to you.
Oh,
Oh.
tēnā koe. Thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of the board. I'm very touched. The kaupapa for Changing Minds is very close to my heart and my passion in life. And I was very privileged to share that with you guys tonight, the conversation. And I'm really excited about what we're going to do together. I'm really excited to be a part of the board and to work on the strategy and to support the beautiful operational team that we already have. So, Jordan, thank you very much.
Just check the food.
You have to grow it first.
Tuki longa, tuki lau, tuki whawha, tuki loto. Hoi ke iku tuku mai mga hanei ka lata mta tō. Wala whala hea tuki tato ta tangata ni. Wala mai he telefoni, hoi TV. Te tōra kutu whiwhini me tutāni tuka tu whakaof. Patua whakawelahi ki hawa riongi. Hoi turo, hoi turo, hoi turo. Pola, isa kuna minaka. Alo lelei, tahala whalawa. Ki a rana katoa tō. And kia ora whānau ngā mihi atu kia tatu katoa. Ngā mihi. Yeah, I'm Johnny Kumito and again to support what Adrian said. It's a privilege and honour to be here tonight and also to be part of this amazing journey with Changing Mind. I'm based up in Whangarei, so I think Zoom hui or sui hui or whatever we can probably the best way forward. But I'm looking forward to be part of this journey with Changing Mind and how we can do. You know, at the end of the day, we've got to do what we've got to do for our community, for our people, and as everybody says, what's most important thing is the tangata. And and also looking forward for the dinner. Sorry, guys. Sorry. But anyway, thank you so much, and thank you for the plant. And this will go lovely with my hut up in Whangarei. I'll take care of it, and I'll keep bringing it in the Zoom when we do meetings, so you find that I'm looking after it. So kia ora whānau, and te gōwelahi, oi ke iku tuku mai mga hanei. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Kia ora.
Oh.
Excuse me, just a technical hiccup for a moment. Today is both a cause of celebration and sadness to say ka kite but not matewa to Turakawa from our board, who has supported Changing Minds' journey to connect with our whakapapa, celebrate Mataranga Māori, and build our confidence in embedded tītiriti into our kawa. Not only our mātou mahi, what we do, but also o mātou matapona, how we do it. Turakawa guided us to learn by a whitia hamaimai, embracing the uncomfortable space and making mistakes. I want to particularly acknowledge Tu's own journey and the mataora he now wears, which is he matapihi ki a koe, a true reflection of who you are. And I see that as kind, warm, caring, and strong. So Tu, from all of us, we are so going to miss you to be on the board, but we know that our connections will stay strong. Come and give me a hug. We have something for you too.
Oh, kia ora.
Because when you leave Changing Minds,
Okay.
you get something. We know you've been growing the garden,
All right.
and so we have brought you a kōwhai tree to bring the birds to your garden,
Kia ora.
because we think that that's what you do. You have people flocking around you because of the love that you bring, and when it grows big and strong, you can put a bird in the side of it.
Oh.
It might need a home for that.
Kia ora. Okay, well, since it's a special time, 3 seconds. 3 seconds. Okay. Remember how I said it's like bringing people on the waka e te whānau? There are opportunities with everything. Ai, he rākau tēnei. He rākau tēnei. Pērā I tētahi kākano, ne? Kākano. What do you do with kākano seeds? Ka whakatōhia te māra. Sow them in the ground. Ka whāngaihia ki te manaakitanga. Ka whāngaihia ki te aroha. Ka whāngaihia ki te kōtahitanga, te tūngātahi, te kōrero manaaki. Kei te pēhia koe, kei te pai ahau, kei te aha koe I tēnei rai, te rākau. What are you up to today? How you been? What's going on? He whanaungatanga te. Nā kona I pua wai ai. Nā kona I pua wai ai, hei tū, hei rākau, pērā I te rākau of Changing Minds, just like our tree that is growing. I came here with absolutely nothing, faking it till I was making it on the board, kia ora. And I came out knowing a little bit more than I had to less fake.
Got a bigger tree.
Kia ora, got a bigger tree. Ka pua wai, hei tōtara. So mihi ana kia tātou. Thank you so much, e te whānau. It's been amazing. And just like we said, ahakoa he taura waka e motu, even though the lashings, the rope can be severed, not so the connections of people. So mihi ana kia tātou. Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Ngā mihi nui ki a koe.
Mihi ana.
I'll now pass over to Anne for the chairperson's report.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Today, on behalf of the board, we're honored to welcome you to the Changing Minds AGM. It's been a while since we've come together for an annual meeting. It's been interesting couple of years. I'm so glad we can be together personally and virtually to everybody who's out there. So firstly, apologies for reading. And I'm trying to stay on script because we promised our interpreters that we won't go off script so that our deaf phono online can fully be included tonight. And I actually just went off script with that. So where do we start? I'd like to start with connection. I'd like to start with connection through lived experience. Every one of us involved with Changing Minds has lived experience of mental health and/or addiction. I am where I am right now, here today, because of lived experience of my own, of those I love, and those I have loved. Those who are here in this world, and those who have gone to the next. In my mind's eye, I see them. I see their joy. I see their beauty. their intense love, their energy, and their contribution. Each was different, and my heart swells. I also know that each of them deserved better, especially in their times of need, and that their whānau did too. I don't pretend that doing this mahi isn't personal. It always was, it always is, and it always should be. It is the connection, it's the thing that brings transformation and change. The moment we deny that, we've all lost. Himana totematu afiako, our lived experience is our strength. So I'm Ann Bateman. I'm the board chair of Changing Minds. I came to New Zealand 11 years ago with my husband, my 2 small children, who are not so small anymore. And I'm originally from the United States. My family has strong ancestral links to Italy and Poland. I was born and raised in New York, where many of my relatives still live. I'm proud to call New Zealand home now, and through each of the other areas will always hold a place in my heart. I believe in doing good work for the world, having a positive impact on society, and being able to have some fun along the way. In the past, I've worked in government funding and leadership roles in mental health and addiction organizations. I now lead a small consulting collective specializing in NGO and government organizational and system development. I'm fortunate to meet amazing people and passionate people every day from all areas of New Zealand and a couple other countries too. I'd like to introduce the board who are with us here. Some are with us here today. Some are on virtually, and some are not able to be here. So we have Jess, who's here with us, Adrienne, Johnny, Jason, who is not able to be with us, and Lawrence, who is on
He's
a panelist on the webinar. Hi, Lawrence. And I want to thank past board members and staff, Turokawa, of course, and in particular those on the webinar who have been involved with Changing Minds in the past and who have whakapapa with Changing Minds and are still interested in our mahi. Thank you for coming. Thanks, everybody. So usually at an AGM, we would be accepting the minutes from the last meeting and renominate the board. However, due to COVID, we're doing a 2-year look back period. And due to a couple of our board members not being able to be here tonight, we will renominate positions at the next board meeting. It's all about flexibility. As we reflect on the work that's taken place throughout the last couple of years, we're humbled and inspired. The support, commitment, and development of our national network of people with lived experiences unlike any other in New Zealand. It is truly an example of the amazing impact that connection and community brings. Our team have tirelessly worked to bring to life new programs, as well as lovingly begin to say goodbye to others. It cannot be understated that this has all been done in the midst of COVID-19 pandemic and associated impacts on our collective, as well as the many individuals, whānau, and the wider communities that is our reason for being. We know that this pandemic story and its impacts are not over. Our board and Kamatua George continue to guide and support Changing Minds with diverse knowledge, skills, and perspectives. The commitment and action goes above and beyond. Through Changing Minds, we are committed to the cause and being part of the change to make the world a better place. We are intrinsically connected. Thank you to everyone who lends their time and their heart. So our vision is one of equitable well-being for all people with lived experience of mental health and addiction in Aotearoa. To achieve this, we have refreshed our values, our strategic areas, and have had active development within all of our mahi, all within the context of our commitment to Te Tiriti o Waitangi. Our strategic themes guide us. So grounded in lived experience, we nurture and inspire to not just inform, but to activate our collective strength to impact change and equitable well-being for individuals, communities, workplaces, and systems. Tammy will show you examples of how we have put these strategic areas into action, but I want to touch briefly first on our values. So I want to take a few moments to focus on our refreshed values, as values are a critical component of the ties that bind us together, keeping us strong and connected. So our first is, thank you. Now Kapono, absolute integrity. We fight for what is right, we stand for what is true, and we are driven by our pursuit of equitable well-being for all of Aotearoa. We hold ourselves to high professional and quality standards. Understanding that our lived experience is a strength also means that we have the responsibility to ensure that we and others do not presume less of us. We hold the dialectic. In other words, regardless of our personal experience or views, we know that lived experience is not homogeneous, and it is our duty to explicitly advocate and create space for other worldviews, voices, and experiences, elevating those most adversely affected in health and well-being outcomes and open, welcoming spaces for those experienced to have a voice. He mana tote korero. Words hold great power. We tell our stories, we speak as one, and we support the voices of whānau to be heard. We recognize that words can do great harm to relationships and identity. We do not subscribe to the adage, hurt people, and instead reflect on how hurt people ourselves, we can instead heal people. He tiaki, to protect what is sacred. We acknowledge all lived experience as a taonga. We protect and nurture those taonga throughout our journey together with all whānau as a source of mana. Everyone we engage with in the lived experience space has a sacred history that is true for them. It is for us to protect the right for others to hold this story themselves, treating all stories and experiences with respect and confidence, and support people to share whatever aspect of their lived experience they're comfortable with, in a way that is safe for them and for their listeners for the purpose of creating change. Tino Rangatiratanga, leaders of our own pathway. We recognize whānau, matua Asiako as the leaders of their own journey, just as we are of ours. This is a commitment to bringing our whole selves to work, maintaining our own well-being, including actively managing distress, reflecting on the value our journey towards recovery brings to our work, and sharing this hope with individuals, whānau, hapori, services, and systems. Whanaungatanga, connection and identity. Our unique experiences, relationships, and connections allow us all to find our own individual identity within one united whānau. We are constantly seeking opportunities to understand one another's worldview, purposefully engage in whanaungatanga, and find connections within these unique identities to come together and support one another's diversity. With these refreshed strategic areas and values, we're looking forward to a future of equitable well-being in Aotearoa. To achieve this, there's so much more work to be done to truly move to a place of shared power with government and institutions. This is the challenge and the opportunity, requiring all stakeholders to think differently when seeking to impact change by inspiring, nurturing, and activating the mana and the voice of our mighty collective. Driven by our passion and guided by our values, the board and team treasure your continued interest, involvement, and support. Tammy, I'll ask you to come up to continue, and I'll stop waving at it.
And it looks to me like it's easier to go off this than it is off the screen.
It is,
Okay.
yeah.
Thanks for test driving that for us. Kia ora, Anne. And I just, sorry, going off script. I just have to say, Anne has been the most wonderful, supportive board chair over the last couple of years. Thank you, Anne. Kei te takari o waka kōrero puakawa, tēnei aku mihi nui. I tupu aki a hau I Australia, oku tēnu tūpuna, he manahiri no whenua rā Ingāri, he wātakari a hau e noho ana. Ko Tammy Allen, tōku ingoa, ki kaitiaki a hau I Changing Minds. Oh, my camera's off. Oh, isn't that nice? How's that? He mau ki te pito mata o te wā hainei. As we live through these great times of uncertainty, we also need to stay really strong and steadfast in our mission to ensure that lived experience perspective is honoured. We are at a really pivotal moment in history where the voice of tangata mātua whiako, people with personal experience of mental distress and addiction, is needed to enable the type of transformation that will sustain the well-being of our tamariki and our mokopuna for generations to come. Over the last 6 years, I have had the immense honour and privilege of being kaitiaki at Changing Minds as Rich Whakapapa. When I began in this role, there was only one staff member, and I think he's on screen, so big shout out to Kieran. And at various points in the last couple of years, we have swollen and shrunk to the size of the mahi that's required. At our biggest, we're about 25 staff. At our smallest, we're about 2. So we shrink and contract all the time. Changing Minds in 2021 looks vastly different from the Auckland Regional Consumer Network of old. 2 decades ago, we've been going for nearly 21 years, but we stay true to the vision of those whose shoulders we stand upon. We use our lived experiences for positive action. And I want to particularly thank those of you out there in the web world who have been part of that whakapapa of Changing Minds. Thank you. We know that COVID railroaded us all, but Changing Minds worked even harder to provide connection for those most needing it and tried to create services that we knew we would want to use in those times of hardship. Most of you already know or are part of our projects already, but I wanted to take you through some of the impact our work has had over the past 2 years. We have had over 610,000 social media engagements, 13,000 website visitors, 12,000 people read our newsletters, and over the last couple of years, we've taken 840 phone calls of people wanting some more clear direction of what services they could access. Our total reach has been nearly 636,000 people over the last 2 years. So for a team of 8 people, that's not bad. In line with the values that Anne spoke about, we continue to think outside the box on services that can be designed and built around us, the people who will be using them. We're a trusted partner in brokering some of the relationships between lived wisdom and the systems that seek it. When I say brokering relationships, it means that we link projects, services, and employment opportunities with lived experience people, and we ensure that those people are safe, supported, and appropriately valued and compensated for that work. This includes opportunities to lead training, co-design, service improvement, governance, and media. The things on this slide are things that Changing Minds is probably most well known and valued for, but no funding box exists to fit these things neatly inside of. I've put above them how they relate to our strategic actions so that you can see how that they completely impact the work. We do this work because this is the work that's needed right now. We've built partnerships and systems and programs in order to do it well with a small team. But in this time of transformation, if these projects are not maintained with sustainable funding, there's a danger that much of the coordinated, safe and supported lived wisdom that we broker will be lost right at the time that we all need it the most. I will share with you now a couple of our most powerful projects. Both have had enormous impact on the lives of our tangata iti ora, and both are in danger of being lost. Whakato Mai, the Wellbeing Sessions by Changing Minds, was begun over a 4 a.m. epiphany in our first lockdown. It offers a really wide range of free and online wellbeing sessions. The sessions are aimed at supporting health and wellbeing as part of the government's COVID-19 response package for anyone over the age of 18 in Aotearoa during and now beyond lockdown. Our sessions are designed to create a really safe space for our communities to learn new tools about wellbeing, share them together, discuss and connect with other people with similar experiences all over the country in real time. All of them are hosted on a private Zoom link by really capable lived experience facilitators, and all of our whānau, whether it be our tech support, our peer support on those sessions, or our facilitators, have lived experience of going through tough times themselves. Between our first lockdown and the 30th of June this year, we hosted 931 wellbeing sessions, and we continue to do that until March next year. Thank you very much to the Ministry of Health for seeing the value in this and supporting us so far, and for Waitemata and Auckland District Health Boards to be able to give us some extended funding to be able to continue that on until March next year. We hope we can find a way to continue that service because we acknowledge that these are really important services even beyond the lockdown and beyond the COVID experience, because it really provides real access and choice. I'd like to also acknowledge in particular Balance Aotearoa and our lived experience crew, our tech and facilitators, their peer support for their facilitation skills to the program. Without them, the program wouldn't exist. Out of the support that we've given, most of them have been group sessions, but some people need some additional support, and our peer support workers have been able to work one-on-one with a few people needing that little bit of extra aroha. In terms of how it impacts financially, we know through what we've measured that on average, Whakato Mai serves around 60 people a week in peer support. And if we compare that with our traditional one-on-one peer services of who would support approximately 37 people for an hour a week, we can support almost double that number with significantly less cost because nobody's traveling anywhere. Our guest satisfaction rate is really, really high. And it's really clear why when we read the feedback of our whānau whaiora who have come online. And that is because of the lived experience we bring. Although we developed it as a way to ensure people had access to support and choice in the tools they used to navigate wellbeing during the pandemic, it's clear that digitally enabled ka nui ki te ka nui face-to-face peer support is valued way outside the COVID environment and should continue. Here's a lovely comment from one of our guests. They say, I think it's difficult for others who have not experienced mental distress to understand what it's truly like to struggle with it. Knowing that I'm talking to people who have been or are on the same journey as I am makes me feel truly heard and understood. The other program we're intensely proud of is our Rako Roroa program, our Tall Trees. And that program supports a network of leaders who change the way society views mental health. We recruit, train and support people with lived experience to use their peer wisdom safely in their own communities to inspire others and positively change attitudes and behaviours to mental health and addiction. We don't tell them what to do with this taonga. They're able to take that to the communities and use that knowledge how they see fit. Rākauroroa training and peer mentorship is underpinned by 20 years of social justice knowledge, consumer movement history, and research on what works to dismantle prejudice and discrimination, and to grow compassionate, skilled, and lived experience leadership. For me, watching Rākauroroa grow, thrive, both individually and collectively through the tall trees, go from strength to strength, has been incredible to witness and one of the most amazing experiences of my life so far. There's just some of the people that we used in co-design, and we just won an award. I'll talk about that. Rākauroroa participants, hi there, out there in the land. I know there's heaps of you on here. You guys have individually and collectively supported each other to embrace opportunities, to challenge discrimination, poor media reporting, some great examples of that, and to challenge the biomedical predominance in our system. You have the confidence and tino rangatiratanga to proactively seek and fill gaps where the lived experience perspective can actually change behaviour, attitudes and systems, public discourse, all of those amazing things that we need in this country. The diversity of our tall trees involved in reducing discrimination across the country is broader and more impactful than we could ever have hoped. There are CEOs, senior managers in pivotal corporations, defence force, police, politicians, mothers, kuia, teachers. They're all writing policies, plays, doing mainstream media, and all of them are safely using their own stories to make a real difference in everything from government, mental health and addiction, social services and education to workplaces, organisational governance, iwi, hapu and whānau. Our tall trees maintain and support each other without much more than encouragement really, and validation from us. They do it on their own. We just connect them with the opportunities that come to Changing Minds so that it's not Changing Minds' voice out there in lived experience land, it's the voice of our hapori. The tall trees are really proud of this kaupapa. I know I can see the comments coming in, and they're fiercely protective of this forest culture that we've created. The tall trees themselves came up with the tikanga, safe engagement with each other. And I can say that that collective creative way of working out how we engage with each other has meant that people engage with pure kindness and support, which has been wonderful. Rākauroroa, the Tall Trees program, has been delivered ka nui ki te ka nui, face to face, over its original deliverable of 100 people, and we now have 123. Its online version was developed with Nōko Te Ao Like Minds funding from Te Hiringa Haura, the Health Promotion Agency, to support people to embrace the value of their own lived experience and use it to create positive change individually, collectively and systemically. We want to really thank Te Hiringa Haura for their partnership and support over the years, and congratulate them on relaunching Like Minds' Nōko Te Ao, which will have an enormous impact on equity in the years to come. Need some water. It's all right. No, I'll be fine. Through this blended online course now comprising of 4 modules over a month of self-directed learning, participants use interactive games, self-reflection, peer support, coaching, and live kōrero sessions to learn concepts and tools. And I think Bronte's online too. I want to have a shout out to her for starting this process and ensuring that Changing Minds' kawa is embedded in how we do the online version. This online platform, we are so proud, has just won the New Zealand Association of Training and Development Award for the best blended learning. It is the only mental health program to ever have done so, but it's currently unfunded. After nearly 3 years of development, it is profound sadness to all of us that just as it's ready to go and launch to the world, it should be a really exciting time, but we're still looking for resource to be able to launch and maintain what is essentially an inexpensive tool to develop lived experience leadership. You can see from the comments up here what the judges thought of our online learning. The first one said, I was so blown away by this initiative, so well thought out, so well designed, and so well developed. And the second judge said, Rakaroroa is a comprehensive. I wanted to talk to you about a couple of our other projects that we're running and have a bit of a surprise in store that we can't talk about yet, but we were hoping we were able to talk about tonight. We have a program called Recovery, which is a VR film. It was featured at the E-Mental Health International Expert Forum, and it uses the power of virtual reality technology to create a simple, safe, and effective way of understanding the experiences of people who have recovered from serious mental health and addiction problems. Participants are immersed in real stories of recovery from mental distress and addiction. They can interact with the storyteller and collect tools to support their own journey. We're currently in the process of licensing this to an international distributor called Mindscape Commons, and that is the first online resource for immersive and interactive content in mental health in the world. Their online program presents over 200 VR experiences, together with documentation and tools to help deliver better teaching, learning, and treatment for university libraries and academic departments. Our VR program currently features one experience around postnatal psychosis over 4 generations. Recovery is a virtual reality platform with the infinite potential to add other virtual films and stories based on the need to understand particular experiences of distress from a lived experience perspective. And while it has been available on Google Play and the App Store before now, just this morning we moved it over to our website for easy access and free play. So you go to projects, is that right? And you'll find it there. You can also contact us if you would like to get Google Cardboard, and you put your own cell phone in that to be able to watch the experience. It's completely free. Google Cardboard is compatible with all cell phones. So yeah, we're also in the development of a yet to be named mental health and promotion campaign designed by and for the deaf community in Aotearoa. That creates a space for conversation around distress and recovery. The aim of the campaign is to reduce prejudice and self-stigma within the deaf community around mental illness and distress, to enable people to be more willing to access informal and formal supports. And we have exciting news to share, but the Minister of Health has decided that he wants to announce it. So just watch this space, hopefully in the next few days. And a big thank you to our supporters, without whom Changing Minds would not exist. I want to give a special mention to our individual community donors that put everything from thousands of dollars to $2 or $3, and every single cent counts. I want to mention Dipper Day. Dean O'Reilly raised over $5,000 for jumping in freezing cold water every single morning. Thank you, Dean. I want to thank the 10-year-old boy at the local greengrocers who sold seedlings outside their shop on Mount Eden Road to raise money for us. Nightflix, who auctioned a giant outdoor movie screen for the screening of the World Cup. Securicom, Genesis, and William Buck, whose staff all chose us to donate to. And in particular, generous donations in Cassandra Lasky's name, someone who we all remember in the lived experience community as a really accomplished, warm and loving lived experience leader, a wonderful human, and I know all of you out there in Webland miss her dearly. We're currently working with her family on ensuring that those donations that have come in from some of you are spent in a way that Cassandra would be proud of. And last, but most importantly, to me at least, our staff and the culture of our staff. For everything that we do and the people we reach and the lives we touch, we have a relatively small team. Currently, you can see us all up there at our lunch last week. There's currently only 5 FTE and 8 staff. And in order to do all the work we do, we also have 26 contractors. Anne mentioned the journey that we've been on in the last 2 years, ensuring that Te Tiriti o Waitangi articles are embedded in everything that we do. Particularly Kawatanga, Governance and Authority. You met some of our board tonight. Oh, somebody keeps flicking my. Oh, Anish, get off my laptop. Anish, leave my laptop alone. He keeps messing with my slides. Tino rangatiratanga, obviously self-determination, autonomy or rititanga, equity is really important to us, and equality. And we also look at wairuatanga because for all of us who've gone through lived experience ourselves, we know that the spiritual journey, whatever it looks like to you, is really important. And so we weave all of those things with our systems and processes. In my time, our richly diverse staff and board have identified as sexual and gender diverse. We whakapapa back to 8 iwi across Aotearoa and hail from nearly 20 countries in the time that I've been with Changing Minds. Our beautiful mix of cultures and languages make a rich whāriki on which we stand to support others. We operate using a shared leadership model where each of our staff have the autonomy to make decisions on initiative. We model peer support values by bringing our whole selves to work. And other than EAP, we have integrated some additional practices like wellbeing hours. Our staff get to spend an hour a day doing something that develops their own wellbeing, and then they share that back with the team of how that helped. And they have their own professional development budget. And we even have personal training sessions, which have kind of dropped off the wagon lately, but we're bringing them back in a couple of weeks. And that keeps us happy and healthy at work. I'd like to leave you with some thoughts from a couple of our whānau whaiora. The thing that I most like about Rākau Roroa is actually the number of people engaged across the country who are involved in this particular piece of mahi and work. I think it's absolutely fantastic to see young and old and a mixture of ethnicities and cultures kind of all banding together in this one piece of passionate and engagement work. And about whakato mai, I think it's difficult for others who have not experienced mental distress to understand what it's truly like to struggle with it. Knowing that I'm talking to people who have been or are on the same journey as I makes me feel truly heard and understood. He mana tō mātou whiako me ka noho tonu. Our lived experience is a taonga and will always be our strength. Please be a part of our future if you're not already by supporting or being part of our work. I'll now pass you on to Jess for the financial bit.
Everyone loves finances on your Thursday evening. Oh, I just click it and it'll move.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
just use the arrows.
Sorry, I'm not very tech savvy.
Use these
It's
arrows.
a piece of paper. Cool. Okay, so for those of you who don't know me, my name is Jess Thorne and I'm the treasurer for Changing Minds. I've been with the trust now for about 4 years and have previous experience in the not-for-profit sector through prior board experiences and through my job as a chartered accountant at William Buck. So tonight it's my pleasure to briefly talk to you about the finances of the trust and also touch base on what an amazing job the team at Changing Minds have done with the financial resources available. So the 2020 financial year has been a big year for the trust, especially with the continuation of the Tortoise project and the commencement of the Whakato Mai project. The team at Changing Minds have done an outstanding job with these projects, as well as all other projects worked on, and have done so within budget. So well done, Tammy and the team. We all know that the services and the presence that Changing Minds provides to the sector and beyond could not be possible without the funding received during the year. So just want to do a special thanks to the HPA, DHB and the MOH for their support. I know firsthand that Changing Minds is extremely grateful for this and have witnessed all involved work incredibly hard to ensure that no dollar goes wasted. What has also been awesome to see this financial year is the different income streams that Changing Mind has started to create for itself. You know, I really hope this continues into the upcoming financial years and beyond. Oh, what have I done?
Your camera's not on.
I didn't turn it off, I swear.
Nope. Hey,
They don't need to see it, sorry.
they do need to
No,
see
no,
you.
no.
You're beautiful. Okay, try that. Hang on. You're going to need that one back.
I can't remember what I was up to. Yeah, so I hope that continues into the upcoming years and beyond. As we need these additional revenue streams to further extend our reach and awareness in New Zealand, and it also helps provide further funds to support the current endeavours that we have. So yeah, that kind of just summarises where we're at. So you can see our contract revenue was really good. And when I was talking about that other revenue that we're generating ourselves, that's the project revenue. Next. Cool. Like most not-for-profits, the main expense is our human resource. However, without this expense, we would cease to exist. Our staff are what makes Changing Minds. They're the backbone. Their culture, work ethic, and pride in what they do is second to none, and they make our jobs as board members a walk in the park. So thank you very much. I just also wanted to note that you can see on the graph there that we do have consultant costs. The main reason being is that if we've got sort of that mismatch between the human resources available to meet the requirements of our project or the deliverable, we'll go and engage contractors or consultants. Cool. So yeah, overall, the 2020 financial year has been another successful year for the Trust. As you can see, the Trust has ended in a surplus position, which will be reinvested into future Changing Minds activities and projects. This is really important. We need these surpluses from prior years, as you're aware that one of our largest contracts has now ended. So we'll be able to utilise these surpluses in the upcoming financial year to kind of keep up the level of success and engagement and value that we've been providing the sector. Without that regular funding. So it's going to be really crucial that we have that net profit that we're going to reinvest. And yeah, going forward, we are looking at these different income streams that we can find so that we can be sustainable going forward and not be so heavily reliant on contracts. Before I wrap up, I just want to touch briefly on the statutory requirements that we have as a trust. So just to let you know that we submitted our 2020 financial statements for audit. We received a qualified opinion, which is good. If you get an unqualified one, that is bad. And that once the audit was completed, we uploaded our accounts to Charity Services. So we've met all our statutory requirements for that financial year. And secondly, that all our taxes and returns are up to date within the Revenue Department. Lastly, I just want to say, a huge thank you to everyone involved in Changing Minds. I'm extremely honoured and proud to be part of such an amazing organisation. I've learned so much from the team, from the board, and I really look forward to what lies ahead. So thank you.
Humans have been telling stories since the beginning of time. It's how we remember, relate to each other, and empathise with experiences we might not have had ourselves. We all remember a story that touched us, that made us cry, and we can probably all recall a story that caused us to act differently, perhaps change our attitude about something or someone, or even change the course of our life. These are the social justice stories that influence decision makers, inspire and empower communities, and change systems. But we also love a different kind of storytelling, the ones that have a villain, a victim, and a hero. Even if there's a dubious rationale for the enemy's villainy, these stories make us angry, give us someone to blame, and inspire us to rise up and fight. The reason for the injustice is almost always external, deliberate, hostile, calculated. The fault is in the villain, and the story inevitably ends with them being vanquished. The problem with this kind of story for system change is that villains are humans too, and almost always don't see themselves as bad. My villain is not your villain. In fact, if we look at our own worldview, we might be each other's antagonists in the stories of our lives. And whilst we see each other as barriers, nothing will change for others going through a similar challenge. Both of these kinds of stories have something in common. They centre around conflict, a dilemma, a paradox, irony. All good stories need conflict. We already know the ending, the change we want to see, and the story shows us the things that get in the way of that dream. The difference between these two types of storytelling is the first kind has no victim and no villain. It focuses on the issue, the barriers, and shows how the character, our hero, transcends them. There's no good and evil, only a problem to be solved, and usually a solution we, as the audience, can cling to. In real life, there's no such thing as a single adversary, and so continuing to tell confrontational activist stories where there's a culprit and a martyr causes exactly the kind of pain and suffering that we're trying to heal. If we want to change the mental health system to better serve the people who will need it, we need to build empathy and community, and to do this we need to walk in each other's shoes. We know storytelling works better to create change than facts or statistics, because research tells us that when we watch or hear stories, the same centres of our brains as the storyteller light up in empathy, creating connection. When they dance, our movement centres light up. When something with a scent is described or seen, our smell centres light up. At brain level, whatever happens to the storyteller is happening in us also. When we ditch the baddie and tell stories authentically, we don't need to make them up. They're in us already. And the people we are sharing these stories with are already part of our storyline, not as antagonists, but as people who can make a difference. The stories we tell to create change can have tension and even conflict, but to affect change in decision makers, ultimately, they need to be love stories. Because to change the underlying beliefs that cause harm requires a focus on our commonalities, our shared values, and our vision for the future.
Slight correction. Oh my gosh. I am accountant, not the tech.
It's just slow, isn't it? There you go.
Just a correction, it was actually an unqualified opinion, not a qualified. I get this wrong every time. I'm not an auditor, so.
But it's the good one, right?
But it's the good one. You want to be unqualified. You don't want to be qualified on something. So excuse my Thursday night brain.
Oh, good. Kia ora. Kia ora e te whānau, I'm back. So, but only briefly. So. I want to do a little bit of a shout out to one of our amazing staff members, Makanaka Tuwe, who was going to give you 10 minutes of inspiration tonight, but unfortunately got the flu. So our aroha to you as you recover, Makanaka. I was hoping that she would get to speak to you, and maybe there'll be another opportunity, because some of the work that Makanaka does outside of Changing Minds is truly inspiring. She has an incredible apothecary circle, which gathers Indigenous knowledge of storytelling to promote healing. So hopefully she will be able to share that with us at some point in the future. But what that means is that is the end of our presentation. So we've got a few questions from the floor that I thought I might see if I can answer now. Yeah. So I've got them written on this piece of paper. Gayleen asked, who from Changing Minds represents the lived experience voice, and can we represent Changing Minds as tall trees? So yes, you can. And you do already. So when Changing Minds gets invitations for being the lived experience voice, our first point is to go back to them and say, do you need a Changing Minds voice, or do you need us to find and broker one for you?
Hopefully it's the latter because we're already kind of taken up with our mahi anyway. And we immediately broker what that should cost, what the value of that should be, and then we put it out to our community, always to our tall trees first, knowing that they are trained in our vision, our values, and our kawa. And a lot of you take those opportunities, so it's really great. And we'll continue to do that as a first point of call. Occasionally, we are asked to give a changing minds voice, in which case either myself or Jody usually steps up to give that voice. Sometimes they're quite short-lived projects. Other times they're voices that we need to engage our community and what they think. As Anne said, as part of our values at the beginning, we know the lived experience voice is a non-homogenous voice, so we can't just bring our own experiences to that table. We try and understand and gather what that diversity of experience are and try and bring that with us to the mahi. But yes, you absolutely can, and we hope you will continue to represent us as tall trees. That's an amazing thing that you want to keep doing that. Chrissy, I think you're online. You wrote an amazing, like 3 or 4 pages of conversation and kōrero. It wasn't really a question, but I think it's something that perhaps we need to sit down face to face and have a talk about, because you've got some amazing ideas of how we might be able to advocate further up the chain, and I'd love to be able to have a chat to you about that. And then there's this amazing conversation that's been happening online around crowdfunding and how we might be able to fund Rakaroa. So I hope that we can continue to have that conversation with you. We need ideas, and we've got some amazing ideas on here. The Tall Trees online learning, how much money is needed. I don't think we've finished the budget on that, have we? But it's not a lot. It's like, it's 1 FTE and the maintenance of the platform, and then our live kōrero facilitators that come in once a week for 4 weeks for each class, and each class would take 9 people. So for just a couple of thousand to $3,000 or $4,000 a month, I think we could continue running Rakaroa. It's not a lot of money. Yeah, NZ Google billionaire. Yeah, I could find one of them. Waitakere and Portage combined. Yeah, there's lots of grants out there, and we've got an amazing team working on grants and funding to outsource some of that funding. It'd be really lovely for us to own. We're also talking to the HPA about a shared partnership in terms of its intellectual property, so that it's still part of the Like Minds kaupapa. And we will look at all your amazing ideas. Keep them coming, is all I can say. So, are there any other questions from either in the room or online? Yes. Oh, yes, I do. Stop share. Thank you. Are there any other questions that anyone has? Anything from the web?
Not yet.
Awesome. Anything from the floor? Anything we've forgotten to say or mention? No. Without further ado, then, I might pass back to Turokawa to close us for the evening. Okay,
Come stand with me.
I will.
As you may have noticed at the farm, I'm a little bit different from wherever I see my come across. And I always think there's, if you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, then why do it? So at the end, to do a karakia is because when we started, we start with karakia to go from noa to tapu, but now we want to leave the stuff here so we can go and have an awesome kai, relax a little bit and get back to our noa. But there's nothing better than doing it with a good friend at your side. So the thing is, even though I may not be here in the gym, our connection never ends, but it's always about planting the seed. Maybe not that kind of, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? So it grows like this beautiful dwarf. However, it's going to be my pleasure to do this without whanonga. Kia ora. Kei wareware ia tātou ngā tikanga nui o tēnei. Nō reira, it is not, we should not forget about, I suppose, the things that we've come across tonight and the things that are, appropriate for us to do. Nā ko nā ka huri tēnei waka ki ngā whitiki o te ki o te pōnei. It is only right to turn the waka to this amazing, beautiful whānau who have been bringing our reo to life. Aha ko kaori te reo a waha I rangona, even though we haven't heard it through them. A ko rangona ke te reo a ngākau. We've heard the beautiful reo of the heart come to life. Nō reira, me whakanui e tātou, rāua me. Kia ora, celebrate, kia ora. Huri hoki, a tēnei waka ki, a ngā haro o te kāhu, the great hawks that see over inside into the pinnacles of the future and trying to guide our whānau. And to our board, e mihi ana ki a koutou. Ko huri hoki, Ai, kia Jess. Ko koe te taikaka o te rākau. And I think you said before, the taikaka is the middle hardest part of a tree. It's the bit that doesn't bend, it's the hardest bit, and you need that to hold our whānau. You know, and I hear your kōrero, I'm only the accountant, I'm only doing that. Without the money in the accountant, this doesn't happen. E mihi ana ki a koe, Jess. O tira ki a koe and te tautoko mana o tēnei whare, keeping our whare nice and standing strong. Mihi ana ki a koe, and also to other board members. And of course, ka huri tēnei waka ki a koe e te toka tū moana. To take me the great standing rock in the ocean. Aha kua tai tinu tai pare, ngaru nui, ngaru roa, big waves that might crash over us trying to take her down. Stand strong, keeps us rock solid in our whānau. Nō reira, e te whānau, kei hoha haere koutou I tēnei tangata, so you don't get too crazy with me and then me going off into a tangent. Hei whakarāpakoto, me pēnei taku ki. Me he whare te hauora, he whare mō tātou. If well-being was a house, it would be a house for everyone. Tū whera katoa na ngā tatau ki te katoa. Open doors, open wide, never locked. Aha ko kōwai, aha ko nōhia, aha ko te tai o tō kiri, regardless of who you are, where you're from, or the colour of your skin. Aha ko ngā whiako e rangona atu ai, e tō kiri, e tō manoa nō. Regardless of the experiences that you've gained on your journey to that whare, he mana tō te mātou a whiako. Our mana comes from our experiences that we've lived and breathed. Ko tāu noa he hipoiki o te whare, all you have to do is take that step inside that whare. Nō reire te whānau, that's enough rambling on. We got this. Bye. Let's cut it here. E te whānau, cut it here. Right, etu, kia ora, that's that. Unuhi atu rā te pūtake o ngā kōrero I te wānanga, unuhi atu rā te hautako o ngā ariki, unuhi atu rā te ronga mai te tio te pō. Unuhi atu tapu o te kupu kia wātea, te hinengaro kia wātea, te tinana kia wātea, te whatu mana wā oe nei pūkenga nei tauero o te whānau Changing Minds. Whakahire rong kia pai tara whare, ka whakamauai kia tīna, hui e,
Tā heki e.
Now let's have a kai. Kia ora te whānau, kia ora everyone. Kia ora.
Kia ora, everyone. Thank you very much. And thank you so much to our interpreters.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.